Jake Morrison felt the ship shake hard as red lights flashed all around him. The Earth Guardian was falling apart, and there was nothing he could do about it. He grabbed the controls tight and tried to keep the ship steady, but the engine was dead. Smoke filled the cabin and sparks flew from broken wires. "Come on, stay together," Jake said to his ship as he looked for somewhere to land. Below him was a planet that looked green and blue like Earth. It had clouds and what looked like forests. The air readings showed it was safe to breathe, which was good because he was going to crash there, whether he wanted to or not. The ship hit the ground hard and Jake felt his body slam against his seat. Metal screamed and bent around him. Glass broke and fell like rain. Then everything went quiet except for the sound of small fires crackling somewhere in the back of the ship. Jake opened his eyes and felt pain in his left arm and shoulder. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead, but he was alive. He unbuckled his safety belt and stood up slowly. The ship was a mess. Broken computers and twisted metal were everywhere. The main door was bent, but he could still open it. Outside, the air was warm and smelled like flowers mixed with something he did not know. The sky was light blue with two small suns that gave everything a golden color. Jake looked around and saw. His ship had made a long cut in the ground when it crashed. Trees that looked almost like earth trees grew nearby, but their leaves were silver and purple instead of green. Jake walked around his broken ship and saw that nothing important was working. The radio was dead. The emergency beacon was crushed. The engine was split open and black liquid leaked out of it. He was stuck on this planet with no way to call for help. "Well, this is just great," Jake said to himself. He went back inside the ship and found his emergency pack. It had food for 10 days, water for 5 days, a medical kit, and some basic tools. He also found his portable scanner, which still worked. The scanner told him the air was safe and the gravity was almost the same as Earth. The temperature was warm like a spring day. There were no dangerous radiation levels. At least the planet was not trying to kill him, which was something. Jake cleaned the cut on his head and put a bandage on it. His arm hurt, but it was not broken. He was lucky to be alive. Many pilots would have died in a crash like that. He ate some food from his pack and drank some water while he thought about what to do next. The first thing was to explore and see what was on this planet. Maybe there were people who could help him. Maybe there were materials he could use to fix his ship. Maybe there was nothing at all and he would die here. He tried not to think about that last one. Jake took his pack and his scanner and walked away from the crash site. The trees were tall and had smooth bark that felt warm when he touched it. The leaves made soft music when the wind blew through them. Small animals that looked like blue squirrels ran up and down the trees. They were not afraid of him, which meant they had never seen anything dangerous like him before. As he walked, Jake noticed that some things looked strange. The rocks were arranged in patterns that seemed too neat to be natural. Lines of white stones made big circles and squares on the ground. Trees grew in straight rows like someone had planted them that way. This planet had people, or at least something smart enough to organize things. Jake followed a path made of smooth stones that led through the forest. His scanner showed no dangerous animals nearby. The path was well made and looked like it was used often. After walking for an hour, he came to a hill and climbed to the top to look around. From the hill, Jake could see far in all directions. The forest went on for miles, but in the distance he saw something that made his heart beat faster. There were buildings, or at least things that looked like buildings. They were tall and white and seemed to glow in the sunlight. They were not like any buildings he had seen before, but they were definitely made by someone intelligent. Jake decided to go toward the buildings, but first he wanted to look around more. He walked down the other side of the hill and found a stream with clear water. His scanner said it was safe to drink, so he filled his water bottles. As he knelt by the stream, he heard something behind him. Jake turned around slowly and saw something that made him freeze. Standing about 50 feet away was a person, but not quite like any person he had ever seen. It was tall and thin with long arms and legs. Its skin was pale blue like the sky, and it had large eyes that seemed to glow with their own light. It wore long robes that moved in the wind like they were alive. The being looked at Jake with curiosity but not fear. It held something in its hands that looked like a small device with lights on it. The device was pointed at Jake and the lights blinked in different colors. Jake realized he was being scanned just like he had been scanning the planet. Jake raised his hand slowly to show he was not dangerous. He tried to smile but did not know if the being would understand what a smile meant. The being tilted its head to one side like it was thinking about something. Then it did something that surprised Jake. It made sounds that were almost like music but seemed to have meaning like words. "Hello," Jake said in a quiet voice. "I am Jake. I crashed here and I need help." The being stopped making sounds and stared at Jake. Its large eyes seemed to look right through him. Then it turned and walked away very fast. Jake started to follow, but the being seemed to disappear behind some trees. When Jake reached the same spot, there was nothing there. Jake looked around, but the being was gone. He was alone again, but now he knew for sure that this planet had intelligent life. The being had not seemed hostile, but it had run away when he tried to talk. Maybe it was scared, or maybe it was going to get help, or maybe it was going to bring others to capture him. Jake decided to go back to his ship before dark. He did not want to be caught in the forest at night when he did not know what else might be out there. As he walked back, he thought about the being he had seen. It looked female, but he was not sure. It had seemed curious about him, which might be good or might be bad. When Jake reached his ship, the two suns were getting low in the sky. He gathered some wood and made a small fire outside the ship. He ate more food from his pack and tried to think about what to do next. Tomorrow he would try to find those buildings he had seen. Maybe the beings who lived there would help him, or maybe they would not, but he had to try. As night fell, Jake saw stars in the sky that were different from the ones he knew. He was far from home on a planet full of unknown dangers and unknown possibilities. But he was alive, and where there was life, there was hope. Tomorrow would bring new adventures and maybe new friends. Jake went inside his broken ship and made a bed from some cushions. He kept his scanner close and listened to the sounds of the alien forest as he fell asleep. Somewhere out there in the darkness were beings who knew he was here, and tomorrow he would find out what they wanted to do about it. Jake woke up when he heard voices outside his ship. The sun was just coming up, and the forest was full of soft morning light. He grabbed his scanner and looked at the readings. There were 5 life forms standing around his ship. They were not trying to hide, and they were not moving like they wanted to attack him. Jake opened the door of his ship slowly and stepped outside. 5 beings like the one he had seen yesterday were standing in a circle around his crash site. They all looked female, and they all had the same pale blue skin and large glowing eyes. They wore different colored robes and carried different devices that blinked with lights. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than the others, and her robes were white with gold patterns. She held up a device that looked like a small crystal. When she spoke, the crystal glowed, and Jake heard her words in his own language. "Greetings, strange being," she said. "I am Lyra Moonwhisper. We are the ethereal. We have been watching you since you fell from the sky. We wish to understand what you are and where you come from." Jake was amazed that he could understand her. The device she held was translating everything perfectly. He raised his hands to show he was peaceful. "Hello, Lyra," Jake said. "I am Jake Morrison from the planet Earth. My ship crashed here and I am stranded. I mean no harm to you or your people." The beings looked at each other and made soft musical sounds. Lyra stepped closer and tilted her head as she studied Jake. "You say you are from Earth," she said. "We know of this planet. We have watched it for many cycles. But we believed your species was like ours. We believed you were all female. Yet you are clearly something different. What are you?" Jake was confused. "I am a male human. On Earth we have both males and females. We are the same species, but we are different. Do you not have males among your people?" The 5 beings made more musical sounds, and their eyes grew wider. Lyra spoke to the others in their own language before turning back to Jake. "Male," she repeated the word like it was strange to her. "We have heard this word in our old stories, but we thought it was myth. Our people have not had males for 3,000 years. They died from a great sickness that affected only them. We have been only female since then. Jake stared at her. An entire species with no males for 3,000 years. He could not imagine how they survived or how they had children. How do you reproduce? Jake asked. How do you make new generations? Lyra smiled and her eyes brightened. We create new life through the joining of minds and spirits. When two or more of us share deep connection and love, new life begins within us. We do not need males for this. We thought all intelligent species did the same. Jake shook his head. On Earth, males and females come together to create new life. We need both to make children. Males are not just for reproduction, though. We work together, live together, love together. We are partners in building civilization. The beings looked at each other again and made their musical sounds. One of them, who wore blue robes, stepped forward. I am Vera Starweaver, she said. I study other species and cultures. This is very strange to us. We have never encountered a male of any intelligent species. We believe that advanced beings evolve beyond the need for such primitive biological arrangements. Jake felt a little offended but tried to stay calm. Males are not primitive. We bring different skills and perspectives. Human civilization was built by both males and females. Working together, we complement each other. Lyra held up her hand to stop the conversation. This is much to understand. You must be tired and hungry. Please come with us to our city. We will care for you and learn from each other. But first we must study you. To understand what you are? Jake was not sure he liked the idea of being studied, but he needed help and these beings seemed friendly. What kind of study? He asked. We must examine your body and mind, Lyra said. We have never seen a male before. We need to understand how you are different from us. We promise not to harm you. We are healers and scholars, not warriors. Jake looked at his broken ship and then at the 5 alien women. He had no choice, really. He needed their help to survive. And maybe to get home someday. Okay, he said. But I want to understand your people too. This is as strange for me as it is for you. The beings smiled, which looked almost human except for their glowing eyes. Lyra gestured for Jake to follow. They walked through the forest on paths made of smooth stones. Jake noticed that everything was very clean and organized. The trees grew in perfect patterns and flowers bloomed in careful arrangements. As they walked, Jake asked questions. How long have you been watching Earth? For 50 of your years, Vera said. We have seen your flying machines and your cities. We thought you were like us, all female, working together in harmony. Your species seemed peaceful compared to others we have observed. Peaceful? Jake laughed. Humans fight wars all the time. We have conflicts and problems. Males and females sometimes disagree about things. The beings stopped walking and stared at Jake. Their eyes grew wide with surprise. You fight with your own species? Lyra asked. Even the females fight? Yes. Jake said, both males and females can be soldiers or leaders or peacemakers. We are not so different in that way. This is very strange, Vera said. Among our people, conflict is rare. We make decisions together through harmony and consensus. We cannot imagine fighting with our own kind. They continued walking and Jake saw more signs of their civilization. Bridges made of living wood crossed. Streams. Houses that looked like they had grown from the ground instead of being built sat among the trees. Everything flowed together like it was all part of nature. Your technology is amazing, Jake said. How do you make things grow instead of building them? We work with life instead of against it, Lyra said. We learned long ago that fighting nature only brings suffering. We shape and guide growth, but we do not force it. Jake thought about human cities with their concrete and steel and noise. These beings had found a different way to live, a gentler way. After walking for 2 hours, they came to a hill and Jake saw their city spread out below them. It was beautiful beyond anything he had ever seen. Buildings that looked like flowers and trees rose from the ground in spirals and curves. Water flowed through channels that sparkled in the sunlight. Gardens and parks were everywhere, filled with colors Jake had no names for. "Welcome to Harmony's heart," Lyra said. "Our greatest city and center of learning. Here we will study you, and learn about this thing you call being male." Jake looked down at the alien city and wondered what adventures waited for him there. He was about to become the first male these beings had ever seen, and he had no idea what that would mean for him or for them. Jake walked through the city of Harmony's heart with wonder in his eyes. The buildings were alive and growing. Walls made of thick vines with flowers blooming on them reached toward the sky. Streets were soft grass that felt good under his feet. Water flowed everywhere in small streams that sang as they moved. The ethereal people stopped what they were doing to look at Jake as he passed. They whispered to each other in their musical language and pointed at him. Some followed at a distance, curious but not afraid. Jake had never felt so different and strange in his life. Lyra led him to a building that looked like a giant flower bud made of white crystal. "This is our center of learning and healing," she said. "Here we study life and help those who are sick or hurt." Inside the building, everything glowed with soft light that came from the walls themselves. The floors were smooth and warm like polished stone. Jake saw other ethereal women working with devices that looked like they were made of living metal and crystal. "Please do not be afraid," Lyra said as she led Jake to a room filled with strange equipment. "We only want to understand you. We have never seen a male before, and we must learn about your biology." Jake looked around the room nervously. There were tables and chairs that seemed to grow from the floor. Devices with blinking lights hung from the ceiling like fruit on trees. Everything looked organic and alive, but also very advanced. "What exactly do you want to do?" Jake asked. "We need to scan your body and mind," Lyra said. "We want to understand how you are different from us. We promise to be gentle and respectful." Another ethereal woman entered the room. She was shorter than Lyra and wore green robes covered in silver patterns. Her eyes were darker than the others, and she moved with quick, precise movements. "This is Vera Starweaver," Lyra said. "She studies other species and cultures. She will help us understand what you are." Vera approached Jake and held up a device that looked like a flower made of metal. It hummed softly and projected lights. That moved over Jake's body without touching him. "Fascinating," Vera said as she watched the lights dance. "His bone structure is different from ours. His muscles are arranged differently. His whole body is built for different purposes." "What kind of purposes?" Lyra asked. "Physical labor," Vera said. "Fighting, perhaps." "His body is designed for strength and endurance in ways ours are not." Jake felt uncomfortable being talked about. Like he was not there. "I can hear you," he said. "And yes, human males are usually stronger than females in physical ways. But we use that strength for building and protecting, not just fighting." Vera looked surprised. "You can think and speak, just like us. In our old stories, males were described as simple creatures driven only by basic needs." "Your stories are wrong," Jake said. "Human males are just as intelligent as females. We think and feel and create just like you do. We are not simple at all." Lyra gestured for Jake to sit on a chair that adjusted itself to fit his body perfectly. "Please, let us learn about you. We will share our knowledge with you as well." The examination continued for hours. The ethereal women used devices that scanned Jake's body inside and out. They studied his brain patterns while he thought about different things. They analyzed his blood and skin and hair with machines that seemed to understand biology better than any human technology. "This is incredible," Vera said as she looked at the results. "His body produces chemicals we have never seen before. His brain works differently than ours. He has physical systems we do not have." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means you are truly alien to us," Lyra said. "We thought all intelligent life would be similar to us. But you are proof that consciousness can exist in very different forms." As the day went on, Jake began to understand more about the ethereal. They showed him how they reproduced through deep mental and emotional connections. When two or more Ethereal women shared love and trust completely. New life would begin in one of them. The process was beautiful and mystical, nothing like human reproduction. We do not understand how males and females create life together, Vera said. Can you explain this to us? Jake felt his face turn red. This was not a conversation he had expected to have with alien women, but he tried to explain human reproduction in simple terms. The ethereal listened with fascination and asked many questions. So you must have physical contact to create new life? Lyra asked. Yes, Jake said, but it is not just physical. Human. Males and females also share emotional and spiritual connections. We call it love. Love, Vera repeated. We have this word in our language, but it means something different to us. We love all our sisters equally. We do not have special love for just one person. Jake tried to explain romantic love and marriage and families with fathers and mothers. The concept was completely alien to the ethereal who lived in communities where everyone cared for everyone else's children. So males help raise the young? Lyra asked. Yes, Jake said. Human fathers love their children and protect them and teach them. Males and females work together to raise families. The ethereal women looked at each other with amazement. This, was clearly a new idea to them. As the examination continued, Jake learned about ethereal technology. They had learned to work with living systems instead of building mechanical ones. Their computers were grown from special plants that could think. Their vehicles were trained animals that could fly through space. Their buildings were guided to grow in specific shapes and patterns. We learned long ago that working with nature is better than fighting against it, Lyra explained. When we lost our males, we had to find new ways to live. We discovered that cooperation with all life forms made us stronger. Jake thought about human technology with its metal and oil and pollution. We humans often fight against nature instead of working with it. Maybe we could learn from you. And we can learn from you, Vera said. You show us that intelligence can take many forms. Your perspective as a male gives you different ways of thinking about problems. The examination revealed that Jake's human biology was both similar to and very different from ethereal biology. His body was designed for a world where competition and conflict were common. Their bodies were designed for a world of cooperation and harmony. We would like to study you more, Lyra said. But we also want to help you. Can you tell us about your damaged ship? Perhaps we can repair it. Jake felt hopeful for the first time since his crash. You would help me fix my ship? Of course, Lyra said. We help all beings who need assistance. But we also hope you will. Stay with us for a while. We have much to learn from each other. Jake looked around at the alien women who had been so kind to him. He was the first male they had ever seen, yet they treated him with respect and curiosity instead of fear. I will stay as long as I can, Jake said. I want to learn about your people too. Maybe our species can help each other. Vera smiled, her glowing eyes brightening. This is the beginning of something wonderful. Two very different forms of life, learning from each other. As the day ended, Jake realized that his crash landing might have been the best thing that ever happened to him. He had found an entire civilization of beings who challenged everything he thought he knew about life and intelligence. And perhaps he could help them discover new possibilities for their own future. Jake spent the next few days living among the ethereal in their beautiful city. They gave him a room in a building that looked like a giant tree with walls made of living wood. The room grew furniture that fit his body perfectly and windows that opened to let in fresh air that smelled like flowers. Every morning, Jake woke to the sound of the ethereal women singing together as they started their day. Their voices blended into harmonies that made the buildings themselves seem to vibrate with music. It was the most beautiful sound Jake had ever heard. Lyra came to visit him each day, and they walked through different parts of the city. Jake learned that the ethereal had built their civilization around cooperation and sharing. Nobody owned anything by themselves. Everything belonged to everyone, and everyone shared in the work and the rewards. How do you make decisions? Jake asked as they walked through a garden where food grew in spiral patterns. We talk together until we all agree, Lyra said. Sometimes this takes many days, but we always find a solution that makes everyone happy. Jake thought about human governments with their elections and laws and conflicts. What if someone disagrees? What if they do not want to follow the group decision? This rarely happens, Lyra said. We are taught from childhood to think about what is best for everyone, not just ourselves. When someone disagrees, we listen to them and try to understand their concerns. They stopped at a fountain where water danced in the air without falling. Jake watched in amazement as the water formed shapes and patterns that told stories without words. How do you punish people who do wrong things? Jake asked. Lyra looked confused. Punish? We do not understand this word. When someone breaks the rules or hurts others, what do you do to them? We help them understand why their actions caused harm, Lyra said. We teach them better ways to behave. We do not hurt them back. That would only create more harm. Jake was amazed. Human justice was based on punishment and revenge. The Ethereal had found a completely different way to handle wrongdoing. That afternoon, Jake met Commander Elena Brightwater, who was in charge of protecting the city. She was taller than the other Ethereal, and her robes were dark blue with silver armor pieces that looked like they were grown from metal plants. So you are the male, Elena said as she studied Jake carefully. Lyra tells me your species has wars and conflicts. Are you a warrior? I am a pilot and explorer, Jake said. I have been trained to fight if necessary, but I prefer to solve problems peacefully. Elena walked around Jake like she was examining a dangerous animal. In our old stories, males were described as violent and aggressive. They fought over territory and resources. Is this true of your species? Jake felt uncomfortable under her intense gaze. Some humans are violent, but not all. Many males are peaceful and kind. We have learned to control our aggressive instincts and use them for protection instead of conquest. Show me, Elena said suddenly. Show you what? Show me how males fight. I want to understand this aggression you speak of. Jake did not want to fight, but he could see that Elena would not trust him until she understood what he was capable of. He agreed to demonstrate some basic fighting moves in a practice area outside the city. The Ethereal gathered to watch as Jake showed Elena how humans fought hand to hand. He moved slowly and carefully, explaining how each technique worked. Elena watched with intense interest and asked many questions. Your movements are different from ours, Elena said. You use strength and speed where we would use patience and wisdom. Both approaches have value, Jake said. Sometimes problems require quick action and sometimes they require careful thought. Elena nodded slowly. Perhaps there is wisdom in having both types of thinking available. Over the following days, Jake learned more about ethereal society. They had no money because everyone shared everything. They had no police because everyone took care of each other. They had no armies because they had never fought a war. How did you explore space without conflict? Jake asked Vera as they sat in a library where books grew on trees and knowledge was shared through touching special crystals. We send peaceful missions to other worlds, Vera explained. We observe and learn, but we do not interfere. We only make contact with species that seem ready for friendship. Have you met other aliens besides humans? Yes, we have encountered 17 other intelligent species. Most are peaceful like us. A few are aggressive like your people seem to be. Jake felt defensive. Humans are not all aggressive. We have art and music and poetry. We care for our children and help those in need. I did not mean to offend, Vera said quickly. We are learning that aggression and compassion can exist together. This is new to us. Jake realized that the Ethereal had lived in peace for so long that they had forgotten how to deal with conflict. Their society was beautiful, but it might be fragile if they ever faced real danger. What would you do if another species attacked you? Jake asked. Vera looked troubled. We would try to understand why they were angry and help them find peace. But what if they could not be reasoned with? What if they just wanted to destroy you? We have never faced such a situation, Vera admitted. Our defensive systems are designed to hide us, not to fight back. Jake began to understand that the ethereal needed to learn about conflict and defense just as much as humans needed to learn about cooperation and peace. Both species had developed only half of what they needed to survive in a complex universe. That evening, Jake was invited to a gathering where the ethereal shared stories and songs. He sat in a circle with dozens of alien women and listened to tales of their history and culture. When they asked him to share a story from Earth, he told them about human heroes who had sacrificed themselves to save others. "Your males can be very brave," Lyra said when Jake finished his story. "They risk their lives to protect others, even strangers. So can human females," Jake said. "Courage is not just a male trait. But yes, human males are often willing to face danger to keep others safe." The ethereal women discussed this among themselves in their musical language. Jake could tell they were fascinated by the concept of protective sacrifice. "We have much to learn from each other," Elena said finally. "Your species has developed strength and courage through conflict. Our species has developed wisdom and harmony through cooperation. Together we might be stronger than either of us alone." Jake felt a warmth in his chest as he looked around at the alien women who had become his friends. They were so different from humans, but they shared the same basic desires for safety, happiness, and understanding. "I hope our species can work together," Jake said. "Humans could learn so much from your peaceful ways. And maybe you could learn from our experience dealing with conflict and danger." Lyra smiled and her eyes glowed brighter. "When your ship is repaired, you must return to your people and tell them about us. We would like to meet more humans and learn about your fascinating civilization." Jake nodded, though he felt sad at the thought of leaving these remarkable beings. He had found something here that humans had lost long ago, a way of living that put cooperation above competition and wisdom above strength, but he also knew that the ethereal needed to learn about the harder side of existence. The universe was not always as gentle and peaceful as their protected world. Someday they might need the strength and courage that humans had developed through centuries of struggle. As the gathering ended and the ethereal women went to their homes, Jake looked up at the alien stars and wondered what the future would bring for both their species. 2 weeks had passed since Jake arrived in the city of the ethereal. Every day brought new discoveries and deeper friendships with the alien women who had taken him in. He had learned their language well enough to have simple conversations without the translation device. They had learned about human culture and were fascinated by the idea of males and females working together. Jake woke up that morning to find Lyra waiting outside his room with exciting news. "Your ship can be repaired," she said with a bright smile. "Our engineers have studied the damage and they believe they can fix it using our biotechnology." Jake felt a mix of joy and sadness. He was happy that he might be able to go home, but sad to leave these wonderful beings who had become his friends. "How long will it take?" he asked. "Perhaps 10 days, Lyra said. "We will grow new parts for your ship using living metal that can bond with your mechanical systems. It will be stronger than before." They walked together to where his ship sat in a clearing outside the city. Jake was amazed to see that the ethereal had built a structure around it that looked like a giant flower. Inside the petals, dozens of alien women worked with tools that seemed alive. They were singing as they worked, and their music made the tools glow brighter. "We have never worked on technology like yours," said one of the engineers. "But we are learning. Your ship will be part machine and part living organism when we are finished." Jake watched as they grew new metal that flowed like liquid but hardened into exactly the shapes they needed. They replaced his broken engine with something that looked like a heart made of crystal and silver. They fixed his communication systems with devices that looked like flowers but worked better than any human technology. "This is incredible," Jake said to Lyra. "Your people can do things that humans have never imagined." "And your people have done things we never imagined," Lyra replied. "You have explored dangerous parts of space that we would never dare to visit. You have survived conflicts that would destroy us." Over the next few days, Jake spent time with each of his new friends. He taught Elena more about human fighting techniques, and she taught him about ethereal meditation and mental discipline. He learned from Vera about their history and their encounters with other alien species. He shared stories with dozens of other ethereal women who came to hear about life on Earth. "Will you miss us when you leave?" asked a young ethereal named Luna Skyweaver. She was one of the engineers working on his ship and had become especially interested in human technology. "Yes," Jake said honestly, "I will miss all of you very much. You have shown me a better way to live. Will you come back to visit us?" Luna asked. Jake thought about this carefully. "I hope so. But first I must return to Earth and tell my people about you. They need to know that there are other ways to build civilization." "Are you sure your people will want to meet us?" Vera asked. "We are very different from humans. We might seem strange and frightening to them. Some humans might be afraid at first," Jake admitted. "But most will be excited to meet you. Humans have always dreamed of finding intelligent life among the stars." Elena approached them with a serious expression. "Jake, we must discuss something important. When you return to your people, how will you tell them about us? We do not want your armies to come here looking for conquest." Jake understood her concern. Human history was full of stronger civilizations conquering weaker ones. "I will tell them that you are peaceful and that you want friendship, not conflict. I will make sure they understand that any aggression toward you would be wrong. But what if some of your people do not listen?" Elena asked. "What if they see our peaceful nature as weakness?" Jake had been thinking about this problem for days. "That is why we need to work together. You need to learn how to defend yourselves, and humans need to learn how to live in peace. We can teach each other." Lyra nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps we could start with small steps. A few of our people could visit Earth while a few of your people stay here. We could learn from each other slowly and carefully." "That is a good idea," Jake said. "But first we need to establish proper communication between our worlds. We need to build trust before we can build a real relationship." As the days passed and his ship neared completion, Jake worked with the ethereal to plan how contact between their species should proceed. They decided to set up a communication relay that would allow regular contact between Earth and the ethereal homeworld. They would share information about science and culture, while being careful not to share anything that could be used for harmful purposes. "We want to learn about human art and music," Vera said. "We have seen recordings from your planet, but we want to understand how creativity works when both males and females contribute to it. And we want to understand how you have achieved such harmony in your society," Jake replied. "Humans struggle with conflict and division. We could learn much from your ways." Elena had come to trust Jake over their time together. "I believe your species has good intentions," she said. "But we must be prepared for the possibility that not all humans will be as honorable as you." "You are right to be cautious," Jake said. "That is why I want some of you to come with me to Earth. When humans see how wonderful you are, they will want to protect you, not harm you." Lyra looked excited by this idea. "I would like to see your world. I want to meet human males and females and observe how they work together. And I would like to study your technology and learn how humans have survived in a dangerous universe," added Luna. Jake felt hopeful as he realized that this first contact between their species could be the beginning of something beautiful. Humans and ethereal had so much to offer each other. Humans could teach the ethereal about strength and courage and defense. The ethereal could teach humans about cooperation and harmony and working with nature instead of against it. On the final day, before his departure, the entire city gathered to say goodbye to Jake. They gave him gifts to take back to Earth, crystals that contained their music, devices that could help humans understand alien languages, and samples of their biotechnology that might help human scientists develop better ways to heal and build. "Remember us to your people," Lyra said as she hugged Jake goodbye. "Tell them that friendship is possible between very different forms of life." "I will never forget any of you," Jake promised. "You have changed how I think about life and civilization, and what is possible when beings choose cooperation over conflict." Elena stepped forward and placed a small device in Jake's hand. This will allow you to contact us from anywhere in space. When your people are ready for formal contact, use it to call us. Jake climbed into his repaired ship, which now looked like a blend of human technology and ethereal bioengineering. The engines hummed with a musical sound and the controls responded to his thoughts as well as his touch. As he lifted off from the planet's surface, Jake looked down at the beautiful city where he had learned so much. He saw the ethereal women waving goodbye, and he promised himself that this would not be the end, but the beginning of a friendship between their species. The journey back to Earth would take several weeks, but Jake did not mind. He had much to think about and plans to make. He carried with him proof that intelligence could take many forms and that cooperation was possible even between the most different of beings. When he finally reached Earth and told his story to the Colonial Council, Jake knew that he had helped open a door to a better future for both humans and ethereal. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and now two species could explore it together as friends.